Hey, it's me. This week we have a very special treat. We are going to talk about a huge polar dinosaur with an Elvis-like head crest. How cool is that? You might be asking yourself, why is a YouTube channel talking about a polar dinosaur with an Elvis-like head crest? And the answer to that question is twofold. 1. Because this dinosaur is really interesting and deserves more attention. And 2. Because I am in dire need of some good news. So let's get to it. So this dino is called Cryolophosaurus ellioti, but just so we're clear, it's not like he had an actual Elvis-shaped head crest. It's more like it reminded people of Elvis's hair, vaguely. The reason for the nickname is that the front of his skull has this sort of long, sweeping crest that makes him look like he's got a pompadour. But honestly, it looks nothing like Elvis if you don't have a brain that interprets shapes as vaguely humanoid. Personally, I see something else when I look at the crest. If you tilt your head, it totally looks like a pair of devil horns. It's the kind of thing you'd expect to see on a dino that lived in hell, and I'll explain that later. Cryolophosaurus was a theropod. That's the group that includes all the famous carnivores like Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus rex. This guy was a big theropod too. The fossils that have been found put him at around 11 meters long and 3.5 meters tall, placing him in the same size bracket as Allosaurus or slightly smaller than Spinosaurus. Theropods this size were basically the apex predators of their time. They ruled the land and terrorized everyone except maybe other theropods. Cryolophosaurus lived during the early Jurassic period, specifically the late Hatangian stage, which started 201 million years ago and ended 199 million years ago. To give you a frame of reference, that's 75 million years before the first velociraptors showed up. He would have been one of the biggest and meanest dinos in any Jurassic Park movie. So far, most of his fossils have been found in the early Jurassic Age Ischigualasto Formation in Argentina, but he's also known from a few places in China and a few other parts of South America. So he was pretty widespread, but still not as widespread as some other theropods. The first fossils of Cryolophosaurus were found in Antarctica, though, back in 1986. They came from Seymour Island, a place where lots of dinosaurs have been found over the years. More than 100 species have been discovered there. At the time of its discovery, Cryolophosaurus was actually considered to be the southernmost dinosaur ever found. These days, the title of southernmost dino goes to a sauropod that was found in 2020. Still, Cryolophosaurus remains one of only a handful of dinos known from Antarctica. Now, when Cryolophosaurus roamed the Earth, Antarctica wasn't covered in ice. In fact, it was much warmer than it is today because it was closer to the equator. It was probably close enough to the tropics that it had a rainforest, and those rainforests supported an amazing ecosystem of plants and animals. It may have even been home to more species than the Amazon rainforest. And being the top predator of such an ecosystem, Cryolophosaurus must have feasted on the lush vegetation and the herbivorous dinos that munched on that vegetation. Most of what we know about Cryolophosaurus comes from the holotype specimen, FMNH P20346. This specimen is a bit of a weird one, though. You see, the fossil consists of a single crest-like fragment of skull that was found completely upside down. That's right. Someone found a piece of dino skull and then spent who knows how many years looking for the rest of the dino only to find out that it was missing. The fragment was discovered in 1974 by a team of paleontologists led by Fernando Novas. At first, they thought it might belong to a relative of Stegosaurus. They named the new dino Antarctonics Shackletoni, meaning Antarctic Stegosaurus in honor of Ernest Shackleton, a famous explorer. As it turns out, though, Antarctonics wasn't a stegosaur relative at all. It was a relative of Cryolophosaurus. The confusion made sense because both of these dinos had thick, rigid crests that protruded from their skulls. In 2015, the original Antarctonics fossil was redescribed and classified as a juvenile Cryolophosaurus. Not only that, but the material referred to Cryolophosaurus that had been collected between 1981 and 1986 was reassigned to this species. This included 3 partial skeletons and a bunch of other skull fragments. The name Cryolophosaurus was coined by José Bonaparte in 1991, but it went through a couple revisions. At first he called it Cryolophosaurus ellioti, but soon after changed the species name to Cryolophosaurus ellioti guy, because apparently sometimes scientists do stuff like that. I guess it seemed important to mention that this particular dino lived in Patagonia. Anyway, the species was merged again in 2015 when it was decided that Cryolophosaurus guy was just a synonym of Cryolophosaurus ellioti. It's thought that Cryolophosaurus got its start in the Ischigualasto Formation of Argentina, and it was likely that the ancestors of Cryolophosaurus arrived in Antarctica via the land bridge that connected South America and Antarctica at the time. During the latest Triassic, though, the continent split up and Antarctica began its journey toward becoming a frozen wasteland. And it seems like this journey happened faster than expected. It was previously thought that the climate of Antarctica didn't become frigid until around 140 million years ago, but evidence suggests that it turned cold and dry way sooner, perhaps as early as 165 million years ago. This means that Cryolophosaurus lived in a temperate environment for a relatively short period of time, and it's a great example of a so-called Lazarus taxon, an organism that seems to have gone extinct at the end of an era, but actually just moved somewhere else. But wait, this can't be right. If Cryolophosaurus truly did live in a tropical environment, why does it look like a creature straight out of hell? Well, the answer is that Cryolophosaurus was descended from older lineages of theropods that evolved in much hotter climates. It just so happened that the lineage that led to Cryolophosaurus continued to retain these traits even after they moved to a much cooler environment. Also, it's possible that the crest developed independently multiple times within theropods. Scientists think that these sorts of structures often develop to attract mates and intimidate rivals, and there doesn't seem to be much pressure against them, even if they make you look goofy. I hope you enjoyed learning about Cryolophosaurus. I sure enjoyed making the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And thank you for supporting me on Facebook. If you want to support my work, please visit my page. Or consider dropping a like on this video and sharing it with your fellow history lovers. I'll be back next week with more stories of dinosaurs, ancient humans, and everything in between. See you then. Bye.